It is a good answer. And the problem is most people can't bring themselves to say, you know what?
I have so much pride.
Yes. You've known me for a long time. I'm a pretty calm guy. I don't get riled up very often. I believe firmly in karma. I wish I was around when karma would strike the people that I wish karma would strike. I wish I could witness it. But I know that it's going to happen.
Welcome to the Set Apart Podcast. Today we have another episode with someone that is an incredible person and asset to our construction company, but most importantly to my life, to me and Isabella, somebody that I love very much, but somebody that, aside being an incredible friend, is somebody that I trust a lot, somebody that is an incredible lawyer, specifically in construction law. His firm has been around over 30 years. They have over 20 employees, and they've had over 20,000 matters. So having Alex Barthet here from the Barthet Firm and the Lien Zone, it's an honor to have you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You know, they always say that you need to have a good doctor, a good lawyer, and a good accountant. And finally, at 34 years old, I finally found the good lawyer.
What they say you need a good mechanic too, right?
Oh yeah, I know, but I bought my car brand new, so
we got a few years on that.
Yeah,
right?
It has warranty. What do you think from the time that we met 8 years ago to now? What do you think has been the biggest difference? What have you seen any change in us at John Bell Construction? That's not a trick question, by the way.
No. I got it. It's a willingness to accept advice from people around you who you have come to trust that may know a little bit more in that area. I think at the beginning when I met you, I think you thought you knew the answers to most questions. And now you realize, wait a second, let me call Alex, let me call my CPA, let me get some professional advice.
So essentially I thought I knew everything before.
Yes, your wife may actually say you still think you know everything, but now at least I can appreciate the fact that you realize that, having people around you in every discipline makes you better.
I think the biggest thing that happened is 8 years ago, we had nothing to lose. And now, we have so much to lose. Before, I remember when I quit my job, I said, I have nothing to lose. What are we going to do? Go back? So, and we talk about that in the first episode of the Who's John series, where we essentially, we were so committed, but we realized that we didn't have a kid, we didn't have any responsibilities. Now, we've built a company that we have a lot of employees, we have a lot of responsibility, we have a lot of assets. So we really trust you with all that information. And I think that a lot of people should trust more experts like yourself with that, because that's how people go out of business.
It's a great honor when folks like you rely on us and they take our advice. They realize we have some expertise that we can provide meaningful information and help you.
Does that make you nervous?
It used to when I started. I've been doing this for about 25 years now.
Wow, when you were born.
That's funny. If I had hair, it would all be great. Trust me. But it is a great honor to have clients like you and other construction clients that count on us. That we are kind of their first phone call.
Yeah, absolutely. You're always my first phone call.
Yeah, sometimes it's things I have nothing to do with construction law.
And I'm working on getting you like one of those easy numbers to call just in case I ever get arrested. But tell us a little bit more about you, because I think that that's important to really set the precedence in what we're going to be able to talk about.
So I was born in Miami. My parents met in New York. My father was from Malta. It's a small island between the southern Italian island of Sicily and the north portion of Africa. Wow. He moved to New York when he was a kid. My mom was born in Cuba. She moved to New York as a kid. They met in college. They fell in love. They moved to Miami. And that was,
So you're half Cuban?
I am half Cuban. I understand a lot of Spanish. I know I've told you that before. You don't believe me, but
Well, I've been talking about, if I ever want to talk bad about you, I'll talk about you in Spanish.
I will know because my wife, who's Cuban,
does the same thing.
oh yes, she gets when she gets going, it starts to turn into Spanish. So I understand most of it.
One of the things that we've, and me specifically, have been kind of preaching about through this podcast, especially in the first couple episodes, is about how we started from nothing. We started with a dream. We had $2,000 in the bank. We really never had any help, especially at the beginning. Nobody wanted to help us. We had nothing. We had no office. We didn't even have a name. I can literally tell you, we had nothing. We just had a dream. It was me and my wife and a little bit of money, $2,000. Your story is kind of the opposite of that.
Yes.
And I kind of want to talk about it because I don't want for people to think that the only route to success and to earn things is my route, where you're not given anything and you have to work for everything. Well, not work for everything, but things kind of like were a little easier or handed to them in a sense. How has that been in terms of, because you essentially, the Barthet Firm was started.
It was my dad.
It was your dad. How do you feel about that in comparison to, let's say, our story?
I don't want to say I'm jealous, but I do recognize the difference. And I think that is the main distinguishing factor, in the sense that I truly appreciate the opportunities that I was given, that were handed to me, and that to me it creates a great sense of responsibility. And the idea that I didn't start the firm. I had a great set of loving parents. I grew up with my sister here. We went to good schools. I graduated with an engineering degree. I went to law school and started working with my dad right away. Working with my dad was my first real job. I mean, I had other jobs, but it was my first real job. So I know that I was given a great leg up. And it's a great sense of responsibility not to squander that. That was given to me. I feel that I got to make it better.
And we're going to talk about that.
My dad, he said, no one is going to want your job, because when you work at the office with me, you're going to be the first person to get yelled at by me, my dad. He said, because everyone has to realize that you got to be here first, you got to leave last, and the rules for you are twice as hard for everybody else. That's the only way they're ever going to take you seriously.
Yeah.
And that's the way it was. It was tough going with my dad.
I get goosebumps you telling me that, because I see everything that you're doing, and I've seen everything that you've done, and I can't imagine Jack being in your position, because as much as I know, how important the company, meant to your dad, and for my son to take over the company. But I think it's not only just taking over the company, because a lot of people take over companies, but it's what you've done to the Barthet Firm that I think that I would say even, exceeds the expectations of your own father, in the sense where you had a firm that was a construction firm that specialized in construction law. You have now the lien zone. The lien zone is a free tool, essentially, for people to learn about the lien law.
Correct.
To protect their payment rights, and it's an incredible tool that you've been able to, through different platforms like YouTube and Instagram, and other forums, been able to really pour into the community completely for free.
Right.
You've created the Contract Detective. It's a free AI tool that I know took the little bit of hair you had left. You created this software so you can be able to insert a contract, and it can automatically, like a chat GPT, spit out what you should probably remove from that. All these things, and now you have a podcast, all this on the Lien Zone. We're constantly getting goodies, and we're constantly getting reminders, and you're in everybody's face in terms of construction law, I think, in this city, at least your clients. And I think that what you're doing is, honestly, I think it's incredible. It's something that I can only wish and pray that that my son would do. Did your dad ever talk to you, about how proud he was or how he felt about what he did?
He did. And that meant a lot because he gave me the space to do what I thought we should do. I know, look, my one of my best friends is in a family business. They're in the shipping business. And he would tell me all the time how difficult it was to work in the family business.
Yeah.
Because his father did not give him any real authority. So my friend, my age, was the president of this shipping business. And he didn't have any real authority. And then his father passed away in a bike accident in the Grove, and he didn't have bank account numbers. He didn't have access to certain accounts. Like, he had nothing.
Yeah.
Because his father held such tight control over the business. And
Which
my
is
father,
honestly
my father was the opposite.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that. So one of the way that me and you met was through something that I believe your dad started, which is there's a Miami Construction Forum. The Miami Construction Forum is another thing that the Barthet Firm does for free. Mm-hmm. It's a monthly kind of lunch. It's a lunch and learn where you have different guests just learning about different, teaching about different things in their industries that somehow impact construction. So I know that, for instance, that logistics shipping company that you spoke has been there. There's a lot of different people. So it's literally a free networking event with no monthly or yearly subscriptions, where you can go whenever you want with free food.
Yeah, we buy lunch.
You buy lunch. To me, it's honestly, it's crazy what that is, because that's the only thing. You're the only one in Miami that does that. Was it always like that, even when your dad started it? Or
when my dad started, my dad was an amazing person. He was ahead of his time in a lot of the things that he did. So the Miami Construction Forum was an idea that he had when he was in another networking group, and he became disenchanted with it. He didn't like the way it was run. It was a pretty traditional old line.
Like BNI?
Group. It was like BNI. It was not BNI, but it was like BNI.
I hate BNI.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Oh my goodness.
So he decided, let's make a construction only lunch group. So he got together with a handful of guys, 4 other guys. They met for lunch. And then my father, he decided to just keep it going, and it grown. So 9 years ago, give or take, when we started, it was my dad having lunch with 3 other guys in construction. Oh. This event that we're going to have in April, we have 150 people signed up. Where it was to where it is.
I feel like that, but I feel like the Barthet Firm, that's it. I feel like you guys should have a sign in your office to say, from where we were to where we are now, because everything that...
See, but it is your story too, right? It's just I started at a different place on the track, right? So, you started at the starting line. 100%, I recognize. I started at halfway up the track.
Yeah, but it's all relative. And I think that's one of the main reasons I want you to be on this show because I love you and you're a good friend of mine, aside from being our attorney. But I feel that, for all these episodes, we're I don't know which episode we're in now. We're almost past 10 episodes already. And I've been talking about how the grind and the pressure cleaner and Oscar started with nothing and this whole thing. And then we have somebody that has a very different story, but you've worked so hard, probably maybe even harder than I have. And it's relative. And there's a lot of people out there that, there's only so many companies that people can start. We're already second generation to this country, so there's not so many. Obviously, we have a lot of immigrants coming into the country, which it can still happen. But especially in Miami, I feel like there's a lot of second generation people that have the opportunity to make the companies that other people started, and they just don't have it in them, or they literally piss it away. And it's a shame. It's so sad, because the person who started it I know sacrificed everything for it, and there wasn't somebody like you that kept the the baton going.
See, we take this back to Jack, right? So fast forward, 20 years, Jack's working here, right? So,
Maybe.
well, I mean, so that's another issue, right? I mean, what are the chances that I was going to go from engineering to law school, that I was going to enjoy being a construction lawyer, that I'd be able to work with my dad? I know a lot of people that can't work with their family. It's just too problematic.
Listen, my two best friends are my business partners, and people told me, "Hey, you should not partner with Jazz. You should not partner with Foz." And then if the relationship is not strong enough for what we're about to go, then we really didn't have that strong a relationship, to begin with.
Right. I agree. My wife, I met my wife at the office, right? We were in office romance.
What does HR feel about that?
Well, my dad was very clear with me. He said, you're either going to marry her or she's going to sue us. And she hasn't sued us yet. So
Not yet.
So we've been married for, 25 years, and it's been great. But I think about how much time I spend with her. We're in the office together. We're at home together. I mean, it's just like Jazz and Foz. I mean, it's...
And even Isabella, this is our life.
Right.
People forget that.
Yeah.
People think that this, I work for the Barthet Firm. I work for Jumbo Construction. No, this is our entire life.
Correct.
From the second I go to sleep to, even during my sleep. Like last night, we had another episode, and I didn't feel like I did a great job on the episode. And it bothered me. I really take a lot of pride in everything that we do. And people tell me, how do you separate your personal life from your business life? I don't.
Right.
I have one life in it, and and what I've done and what I've learned to do is how to separate them, suppress one, suppress the other, and manage them and balance them so that I can have a good relationship at work, but also a good relationship with my wife. And we actually have a lot in common.
It's like a child. I mean, it's like another member of the family, the business.
Yeah, it is. Which is very needy.
Incredibly needy.
Yeah.
I sometimes I think that the people in my office think that I, as the boss, have it the easiest. I must make lots of money. I don't have any worries. I go to these lunches and meet clients, and if they only knew the truth, it's completely the opposite. I work most weekends. I'm up early. I work late. I worry about, making sure that we have money in the bank and we can make payroll, and that clients are coming in and they're paying their bills. And it's a tremendous amount of stress, which I'm sure you have to deal with here. Sometimes I wish I was like a busboy, where you can't take the work home, right? You go to work.
Sometimes I tell you, but I wish sometimes that I just worked at Home Depot. But the way that you were, and I don't want to use the word given, the way that the Barthet Firm became yours, and the way that John Bell became mine, we've just accepted the burden, we've accepted the cross, and it's our cross to carry, and it's something that we're going to do, and we're going to do it, to the very end. And, it really, before your dad passed away, I was talking to you on a daily basis to see, how he was doing. And, I didn't get an opportunity to, I did, I texted him, and he said he had told you that I had texted him. How was it been running the firm without your dad?
So this is another testament to my dad. I have thought about this a lot.
By the way, I can't talk about your dad without crying.
See,
Ron,
we need tissues.
I'm also Cuban, and you're only half Cuban, so.
So you cry a lot? You're very in touch with your emotions?
Yeah, I'm very emotional. But anyways, it's not about me. It's about you. So how's it been running the Barthet Firm without your pops?
The way I can equate it is using an analogy. You remember when you were a kid and you were learning how to ride a bike? your parent was next to you, and you're riding the bike, and then you kind of fall off a little bit, but your parent is right there. And then at some point you're riding the bike and you realize you're riding the bike, right? And okay, great. And then you look over your shoulder because you're expecting your mom or your dad to be like right there because that's where they've been. And then you look back and you realize, wait a second, I've been riding this bike for 20 yards. They're like way back there. So my dad was very deliberate about transitioning the firm over time. It was very gradual. It was not all at once. So it was so smooth. It's like I didn't even realize that it really totally happened. So when he was...
Has that hit you already?
Yeah. Before he passed away, I would say, that's kind of when I really realized that, this is... The mantle has truly been passed. It's mine. I got to make this work. And it kind of really sunk in. But from a day-to-day operations perspective,
Yeah, you've been doing that for a while.
it had happened before, but it didn't really sink in because I would talk to my dad every day.
Right? Yeah. Talk to me about where, like I was telling you, you said you talked to your dad about it. So, yeah, I talked to my dad like about the cases, and, and that's invaluable because I don't have that, I'm in sometimes in positions where I am, that I feel very lonely sometimes, and I think I can relate more to you now than I could a few months ago because there's instances, and I can still talk to Foz and talk to Jazz.
You see, but I disagree with you. Because you have Foz and because you have Jazz and you have Isabella, the person really the only person, my wife is the bookkeeper and we would talk about the office, but she's not a lawyer, and it wasn't her creation, the firm.
But remember, but Albert studied accounting, and so as much as he's learned construction, which is an incredible amount that he's learned, what his role, what he wakes up worrying about, and what he goes to sleep worries about when he falls asleep, is not if the job is running and how we're going to build this job. It's about how we're going to financially manage this job. Then you have Jazz, that is somebody also that studied business and studied marketing, and he's not worried about how we're going to build this job and how we're going to maybe logistically set up this project. He's worried about how we're going to man this job, how we're going to hire this job, how we're going to recruit to this job. And then Isabella is just, it's kind of a mix of all three of us. Right. But in terms of like pure construction knowledge, there's something that...
Yeah, it's you. That's your job. And I can understand why that's lonely. Yeah.
So that's what I mean by it, where I say, man, I don't really know how I'm gonna build this. Like I don't know what material we should use here, what method should we use here, because means and methods is, essentially is our responsibility. So we briefly spoke about it. What did your dad say about you in terms of being, like, how proud was he of you and everything that you were doing? Because the lean zone, what you've done with the construction firm, you essentially just took it away from him, you said, and the Barthet Firm, contract detective, everything that you're doing. What did he feel about that? I think
he was very proud, and he was openly proud. He was not ashamed, or not ashamed. He was not too proud or too. I don't know what the right.
No,
word
I get
is.
it, because look, the other day we had somebody that came on the show, and he took the firm that his dad started, which was Angel Saki Architects, Saki Architects, and I said, "Do you think is your dad proud of you?" And he goes, "I've heard it. I've heard that from everybody, except from him."
Yeah, my father wasn't that way at all.
So that's why I asked.
He would tell me. He was very open. He was not afraid to share that fact, and that was incredibly comforting, because the reality is I needed to hear it.
Yeah, I think we all need to hear it. And there's a lot of people that are listening that there's somebody in their life that that might be giving them that response, and there might be somebody that is not giving them that response. But I've had two different people that I admire greatly on this show, and they're both extremely happy, extremely successful, and they've been able to, overcome something that, either my dad is super proud of me or he's not, but you know what? This is mine now. I have accepted it. I love it, and we're going to make it better. And if you see it, great. And if you don't, also great, because I know that deep down inside he is proud of me. And it's
but to know it versus to hear it. I mean, it makes a big difference.
That show, if people can go back and watch, Angel Saki's, it was really emotional for me. It was one of the shows that I really, really look back, and it was one of the greatest episodes that I've had, is because he was very raw with that. And you know what it is to run your dad's company, and he not say that he's proud of you, that he'd never tell you, hey, you're doing a great job. Which is, the opposite of me and you, Isabella and Foz and Jazz and you and everybody has always, from the time we started, have always encouraged, and especially your dad.
But people need that. I mean, if someone,
not everybody gets it though. There's a lot of people that are watching right now that nobody's out there. Because when we started the company, nobody was saying, hey, you should start this company. Hey, we're going to root you on. Hey, do you need any support? Hey, how can I help? No, nobody did anything. Zero. So there's also times where people don't help. So you also have to be prepared when it's like going to war. You have to be prepared to eat like an MRE, because there might not be food there. So it's good to have it, but you also have to, if you want to run a business and you want to do what we're doing, you also have to be prepared to not have people say good job, because we're not doing it for that person. We're doing it for something bigger, at least for me.
Yes, but if anyone is listening, the message is, look around in your life, whether it's your child, a friend, a business associate. Can you tell them good job? What is it that you can do, like you do, quite frankly? How you help a lot of people that you, quite frankly, don't have any time to be helping, but you do it because you recognize that that's what the right thing to do is, and that's what you think they need. And the fact that you're helping them is giving them that little boost. I've seen you do it. You're incredibly busy, and yet you seem to find time to help people around you in ways that most people won't.
But if they deserve it.
Yeah, I get it, but you could still pass.
Yeah, I guess I could. But again, this is not about me. It's about you. I've noticed like a lot of these episodes. Sometimes I feel like we're like in not a marriage counseling, but like just straight counseling, and people have really exposed a lot of the things about me. Some things I like, some things I don't, but I understand what you mean. I've really tried to help people as much as possible, but I try to help people that deserve it, and or at least people that really need the break, because sometimes people just need help, and I feel that I really want to help people as much as possible. The problem is that people, switch kindness for weakness, and it's like a fine line where you really need a lot of discernment to kind of get through that one. But I want to talk a little bit about construction and about construction law.
This is where we lose most of the audience at this point.
I think we're going to gain people right now because even be it construction or not, there's a lot of things in here. Construction directly correlates with the economy.
Yes.
The economy correlates with the housing market, and the housing market correlates with people's, with their money and how much, extra spending they have. So if you ever want to know how the market is doing, just look at the construction industry. So I feel that people should definitely continue to listen. What trends are you seeing now in terms of litigation now compared to before? Because in COVID, the number one litigator was material price escalation. What's happening now in terms that you're seeing a big something that continues to happen, because it's something really important to me, but also to a lot of people who are watching Because if there's people who are litigating about something, that wave might, ripple in, to 2025 and beyond.
Miami is an incredible city. South Florida is an incredible place to be in. We are so fortunate to be here. It is a booming, thriving community. And you look around, you see all the construction, you see these cranes going up, new buildings going up. From our perspective, we don't see anything materially different.
Hold on, time out. My wife before the show said that I needed to ask these questions because this is what she thought people needed.
No.
And then you're telling me that we're going to lose the audience because honestly, Ron, we're just going to start talking about what we feel that we need to talk about because there's so much to talk about. Who knows what people are going to listen to or not.
No one wants to listen to construction law.
Really?
Yes. I tell people to listen to my podcast if they want to know about the lien law or they need to go to sleep.
Okay.
It's one of the two things, okay? So you either really want to know
So listen, let's go through this really quickly.
to make your wife happy.
Yes. And then we're going to talk about something else that I really want to talk about that, honestly, it's something extremely, extremely important that I think we talk about and I think that people really need to listen to.
Okay.
So, because you've been talking about for like 5 minutes and you haven't answered the question, what is something that you're seeing now in terms of claims and litigation that's happening right now?
There is an uptick in the number of people that are owed money. We are busier than we've ever been helping people collect for the work that they have performed or materials that they delivered. But I don't equate that necessarily to a dip in the market as much as just a natural increase in the number of people that need that help, because there's just that much more work that's happening. So we think, I think the economy's strong. We are very bullish on South Florida.
You feel that way?
Yes.
What advice do you have for somebody that I would say specifically a construction contract, but in contracts in general, that they should really look for when reading a contract? Because I feel that other than going to the contractdetective.com, this is really important. If you have a contract, I'm listening, promise, go to contractdetective.com. The contract, you be a proposal, whatever that you're getting, and you put it into the contractdetective.com, and it's going to spit out what it feels are at least the things that you should, be careful about. So if they don't have a computer and they don't know how to use the contractdetective.com, what's an advice that people should be looking at in their contracts?
How to get paid? What are the conditions that
Or to pay,
or to pay, right?
Okay.
And what happens if things don't go like you plan? We read a lot of contracts and they assume that everything's going to go right. And
especially in the city. The reason that we are in business, Alex, is because the contractors in Miami are terrible.
Yes.
They don't show up on time. They don't do what they say.
Or they don't have a license.
They don't have a license. They don't pull a permit. They complete. So what can those people that, maybe we're not their right contractor for whatever reason, what can those people do to protect themselves from, those scam artists in the city?
So the first thing is verify that they have a license. It's an easy thing to do.
How do they do that?
You can go to the Department of Business and Professional Regulations website. You can go to Google and type in Florida Contractor License Search.
Okay.
And that will take you right to the page to do that search. Then you type in their name or their license number, if they have one, if they gave you one, and you can verify that the person that you're signing the contract with, in fact, has a license.
So what about if the person, you hire Pepito, and Pepito says he has a license, but then Pepito's name that he gives you is Ronald. What about that? Is that okay?
No, it's completely illegal. It's actually a felony in the state of Florida.
For the owner or for the contractor?
For the contractor.
What about the owner?
The owner is an innocent party in the transaction if they didn't know about it. The problem, of course, is...
But what if they know about it?
Well, if they know about it?
Yeah.
The problem
Just say that they go to jail. Go to jail, hire us.
Unfortunately, no one in Miami goes to jail for any of this.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
And
which creates this cycle of it continuing
it's a
to
disaster.
happen.
And we're hoping to have different elected officials, preferably building officials, on this podcast, because I really want to talk about that, because there's a big need, for people to hear that perspective. So making sure they have a license.
Ace Marrero, I think.
I'm trying to get him. Ace, if you hear us, we're trying to get you here on the show.
He was just at the Miami Construction Forum.
Really? Well,
Yes.
can you send him a text? Because I would really appreciate him to be on the show. He's actually the person I was talking about.
Yeah. I can.
So, making sure they have a license. That's number one. Then what else? Then get.
You want to get a
Because
certificate.
this is Alex, and I know that we're like in this podcast, and we're kind of like in this. This is real things that happen. Like people get.
Oh, I get the phone calls. From
And it really breaks my heart, because there's, the person wanting to do their driveway, the person wanting to renovate their pool, that wants to do the pergola, that wants to do the barbecue in their kitchen. These are people that are just, they're middle class. They both work. They're like saving up money. And it breaks my heart when they call here and I said, we don't do that type of work. And then they call somebody else and then they get ripped off. How can we protect those people?
So I get a call, without exaggeration, every day. We get at least one call a day from an owner who has hired, usually an unlicensed contractor, to do some type of work, and that work is, exactly what you said: windows, roof, pool, bathroom, kitchen. Those are the big ones.
Yeah, the $50,000-$60,000 job.
Correct. And what do? They write a check for $20,000 to start, and the guy or gal, they just disappear.
All right, so talk about that. How much do you think people should give a deposit to those people?
No more than 10% of the contract price. And I would suggest, if you're hiring a truly reputable contractor, you probably need to give very little at the start at the time you sign the contract.
Yeah.
Usually we see, if there are some long lead items, windows, maybe roof shingles, electrical equipment, appliances, you should see the quote for what that is. You can issue what's called a joint check, a check to the contractor and to the vendor.
That's a great idea.
To make sure that the money gets to because that's the problem.
It never gets to them.
It never gets to them.
They're stealing from Peter to pay Paul.
Without naming any names, we have
Name them.
No,
Say them.
Can't. It's attorney-client privilege.
Oh,
Without naming
nobody's
any
watching,
names.
Alex.
The Florida bar is watching. So, we have clients that have accepted deposits, and they haven't necessarily fulfilled all the obligations for the deposits they received, and it's problematic. And you don't want to be the one making the payments. And the best way to deal with that, to prevent that from happening, is to make sure that you limit your exposure by, one, having a written agreement that's reviewed by a lawyer. I would say if you're signing a contract in excess of $50,000, you need to have a lawyer review that agreement.
And can you provide somebody without an agreement?
Yes, absolutely.
How much do you think that would cost somebody? If right now somebody, don't answer. If somebody right now, I'm telling you, this is how we started John Bell Construction. If somebody wants to do their windows, somebody wants to do their kitchen, somebody wants to do their bathroom, somebody wants to do their driveway, they want to put turf, they want to put a pergola, they want to put, that's the need for the city, by the way.
Right.
It's just a very saturated market, and it's just something that we can't be competitive anymore. How much do you think you would charge them to prepare a 1 or 2 page contract to protect them from what could happen?
Yeah, $1,000, $1,500.
Which in reality is nothing for the $25,000 deposit they just lost.
Correct. Because that's what we see. That's the problem, is that, and then when they make that deposit and then they keep getting.
But what about if you send them that contract to that person, and that person that gave them the lowest bid doesn't want to sign that contract?
Yeah, I mean, that it becomes an issue, right? I mean, then what, you got to figure out who's going to sign the contract.
I thought you were going to say, well, then that's probably a good sign, because you probably shouldn't have hired that guy.
Yes and no. You know, look, if someone hands John Bell, Oscar, a really one-sided contract, you may say, you know what, I'm not necessarily interested in
this opportunity. I'm too busy for this.
Correct. Oh. Correct. So you got to be careful. You got to manage it, and we can help clients manage that. But at the end of the day, you should. Most of the problems that people come to us with, could have been avoided had they called us before they signed the agreement. The problem, of course, it's after they signed the agreement, it's after they wrote that deposit.
I just want people to be protected, Alex. As crazy as that sounds, I don't want Miami to be known for bad contractors. I want Miami to be known for people who just care about each other, and you just kind of like who we are at John Bell. It's, you do what you say, you show up on time, good quality work, give them a fair price with good value. I just don't know why people have to be such scam artists, in this city. And I just hope that, that clients can realize that they can somehow be protected. And even if they want to pay the $1,500, just slide that proposal or contract into contractdetective.com and see what it spits out. And even if it says something there, just bring it to the person's attention, because if that person kind of balks at it and they kind of say, hey, and they can't kind of like, a little nervous, then that's a bad sign. It's probably...
There are a tremendous amount of free resources for contractors and for owners on the internet. And the best thing someone can do is spend a little time before you sign the contract to do a little bit of research, to have an understanding. One of the things that I find interesting is that many of the people that call us and complain about some contractors, if you just Googled the name of the contractor, you would not hire the contractor.
Because they don't show up?
Or they show up with bad reviews or bad Better Business Bureau listings.
The problem, Alex, is, listen, the reason we don't do residential anymore, because honestly, this happens in commercial, but only like in, 30% of commercial. It happens in like 80% of residential, is that, and I understand, people just don't have the money to pay, what the $70,000 quote, and they can only afford 40. So when the person tells them, 45, they're already kind of reaching in terms of their budget. My personal opinion to those type of people is just don't do it realistically, because you guys have worked so hard at earning that money, and you guys have put long hours. Don't give it to somebody that you don't know is going to be a good steward of everything that you've really worked for. And that really breaks my heart, which is the reason that we even started the company, was to protect people like that. And I just want people to know that not all contractors are bad, but most of them are scumbags. And to be
what do you really think, Oscar?
And to really be, it's like kind of like going into a relationship. Like they say, all women are, or whatever. What's a word I can use that it doesn't sound
offensive? Probably no word can you use.
Well, no women can be blank, and all guys are pigs. And that's not the case. It's just you just got to find the person's value, appreciate their value, and realize that there's sacrifice always in getting the right person in anything in life. And if it sounds to be good to be true, then it's probably because it ain't. So, and I kind of know the answer to this, but I also kind of don't. This being the Set Apart podcast, what do you think really sets you apart from other construction attorneys or just litigators in general? Which I don't consider you a litigator. I wish you were, but you're not. You're far from it. You are more of a person that studies law or studied law, has a license and to study, to represent me, and you're like a peacemaker. Other than that, what do you think really sets you apart as a construction attorney? Or is it that?
I would say it really is that. There are a lot of other attorneys that like the fight. They need to win.
You talking about women?
Yes, my wife is like that too. I know.
Or men, sometimes just people love the fight.
Yes.
And me and you unfortunately went into a litigation where somebody sued us and who lost. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, I say, let's take them, and you're like, no, that's not what we're gonna do.
We try to be business focused and pragmatic. The idea isn't to win at all costs, because the cost is significant. The goal is how to solve this problem and move on and continue on with the business.
Do you believe that, Alex?
Oh, 100%.
Because you make money through litigation, and lawyers make money through litigation. Like, why? Like, do you have so much money that you want it to end? Like, why do you do that?
So an hour before I came over, I was on the phone with a guy that found me on the internet, and he was owed $9,000 for a pool, the last payment on a pool that he built, and the owner refuses to pay.
Why?
BS excuses. They claim there was a leak, and they did a leak detection. There was no issue. So now
They don't want to pay.
they just don't want to pay the last $9,000, not giving him a good reason. And I told him how much we cost, how much he's gonna have to pay. You know, we could send a letter. He already has a lien on the property. We can file a lawsuit. And
What's a fight?
And I told him, I said, but just know that you may end up spending more with me than you're fighting over. And maybe you win it all.
What did
But
he say?
he said it's not worth it. I said, you're 100% right. It's not worth it.
That's a good answer.
It is a good answer. And the problem is most people can't bring themselves to say, you know what?
He has so much pride.
Yes. You've known me for a long time. I'm a pretty calm guy. I don't get riled up very often. I believe firmly in karma. I wish I was around when karma would strike the people that I wish karma would strike. I wish I could witness it. But I know that it's going to happen. I don't need to be there to know that karma will affect the people that karma is out for.
Yeah.
So that gives me peace.
How do you think we handle our? I wish, because there's a lot of people, and I'm reluctant to say it, but this is I always say that
We're not naming any names.
no, but we're gonna be. No, I'm not gonna name that. No, just kidding. Scumbags name. No. It's not about names. It's not about them. It's about us. And I always wanted this podcast to be something that's honest and genuine. And I wish that I would have gone my whole career saying that I've never been in a litigation.
It's not possible. It's not possible.
But
in
there's a lot of
Miami.
people who say that. I've never had a litigation, and they say it with such pride. But anyways, we got sued by somebody that we fought it, and we essentially we won the case. We lost money, but we won the case. How do you think that we handled that? And me personally, how do you think that? Do you have any advice on, if that ever happens again, what I can do better?
You were too emotional.
Really?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, you didn't want to hear some of the things that we told you.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't expect that answer.
You heard it. You said you heard it. You processed it. Towards the end of the case, you were more receptive. At the beginning of the case,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Because
we could have ended it sooner. Is what you're trying to say?
Yeah, we could have. At a total cost to you that would have been less.
Yeah.
Right.
Same thing with that guy. If he would have said, "Hey, let's fight it," and he gets $9,000, but he's
if he spent 20 with me,
yeah, he still lost 11.
Right.
And then I think I learned a lot through that experience. And one of the things that, how long did that last? Like a year? No, almost.
No, that was another time warp for you. No, it was more than a year.
Really?
Yeah, almost 2 years.
The only thing that good that came out of that is that me and you really got close. And
Oh yeah, we had to talk almost every day.
yeah, I told you, you're my most expensive friend.
You would.
I'd say I don't want this litigation to end because I feel like I'm going to lose my best friend.
And look at me now. Look, I'm here on your podcast.
And I'm really happy you're still here. And we're going to go ride bike next weekend.
We are. You would call me at like 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and we would talk about it. And,
I'm sorry about that, by the way.
And most of the time, we were talking about how to get you to overcome certain things that you felt. I mean, we were talking about strategy of the case, right? When you're in it, you're kind of in it. You got to deal with it.
But that's a good advice for other people. And it's incredible that you just talked about. Sorry, we started recording this podcast that somebody called you about that, because honestly, the reaction a lot of people have is, let's stick it to them. And then they always say that the only one that wins is the
it's the lawyers.
lawyers.
Yeah, for sure. I spend most of my time trying to convince people not to sue other people. And I am very fortunate, as we started this podcast by talking about the fact that I am fortunate that I've had these opportunities. I am very fortunate to have a lot of work, right? So I don't need that next case.
Why do you have so much work, you think?
My father, again, it always comes back to my dad. My dad's philosophy was that we need to continue to market the firm when we are the busiest, because our sales cycle, our lead cycle is very long. If I meet someone today,
How long is yours? 5 years? 4 years?
No, it's between 6 months and 18 months.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, think about it. If I met you...
Because my sales cycle is
it's
eternal.
a long time, right? But think about it. If I meet you and you don't have a case, I got to kind of keep you on the radar.
Yeah, you keep sending me little cars.
The little cars, other little trinkets and other things, right? So that when you have the case, you're like, oh, I'll call that Barthet guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my father's philosophy was always market the most when you are the busiest. It's the last thing you want to do when you're busy. You got a lot of work and you're like, geez, I got to keep marketing. But then if you wait until you're slow,
and you drop,
then you're going to be waiting a long time. So to keep the machine going.
That's a good advice he had.
So he was always marketing. My dad always, constantly. So we're kind of always out there, Instagram, YouTube.
Did you learn that from because I think you do an incredible job of marketing.
It's all from my dad.
From your dad.
Now he wasn't recording podcasts, and he was old fashioned, right? So he was writing the newsletter.
Yeah, whatever it was, it's all relative. It doesn't matter if it's a podcast, because today it's a podcast and tomorrow something else.
Correct.
But I think that your dad was an innovator. He was a leader. I think he was a great father. And I don't know how he raised you, but the fact that you are the person you are today, shows me how good of a father he was. But I also can see things in you that I'm sure he wasn't the best father or the perfect father at all times. Mm-hmm. But
he would tell me sometimes, he would say, I wouldn't do it the way you do, but the way you do it works, and sometimes it's probably better. So my father was a much more emotional person than I was. So he would, he always wanted to kind of, he grew up in New York. He would tell me times that he would get in fights in the streets in New York playing stickball and handball. And I mean, it was like kind of like the movies, the stories he would tell me. He told me about some time that, some guy was giving him a hard time and he had to almost ran him over with his car. I mean, it was like the real deal. Things I never had to deal with, but that made him who he was. So he was a much feistier guy. And I'm pretty even keeled. And he would compliment me on that.
That's awesome.
And it was when your parents or the people around you that love you give you praise and they give you reassurance, it makes you feel good. It is important. It is tremendously important.
It's really important. And I wish we would have had the opportunity to have him on the show.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
So to end, what recommendation would you have for anyone in this city that has to do with any type of renovation, any type of construction? They want to build something. They want to hire somebody. They want to get hired for something. And the reason I'm asking, and I think that I really hope that people are watching this, is because I don't want Miami to be known for people who are bad. At least in our industry of construction, I want things to be. We need to do something so that we leave it a little bit better than where we are right now.
See, but that's what sets you apart. No pun intended, right? Because there are so many other contractors that are not like you, that it's easy. I think about it the same way for our business. You answer the phone, you respond to emails on time, you show up to meetings on time, you do good work. I mean, that's kind of like table stakes. Like you would think that's the basics
It's not.
that everyone is doing. And just doing that sets you apart.
You get
in Miami.
You got to see the table.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's
But
you
for
know,
me and you, it's not enough.
no, it's not enough. It's not enough.
And that's why I think that we make a good team, and I feel like we are a dangerous team, and I feel that we have a lot to give to the city. And I want for people to, before they end this episode, for them to have something that they say, if there's anything that you do, be it if you want to renovate your house, you want to renovate your business, you want to do some type of construction, you're about to get hired, what do you recommend that they do so that the contractor doesn't get screwed, the owner doesn't get their deposit taken and the person run, that the supplier get paid? What do you think we can do so we all get along?
That's a loaded question. There's a lot to unpack there.
Well, we have plenty of wine.
But we don't. I think you finished the bottle.
Oh,
So the short answer to that question,
I gave you the last pour, by the
I
way.
appreciate that. The short answer to the question is make sure you have a contract. Don't just sign whatever the other person gives you. If someone is handing you their contract, know that it is good for them and not so good for you. So you need to read it. I've had clients that have come to me and said, hey, Alex, can you review this contract? And I look at it and it's signed. I said, well, you already signed it. He says, yeah, I already signed it. I said, well, there's nothing I can do for you now. You already signed it. So read the contract
Before you sign it.
before you sign it. Understand it. If you don't understand it, don't sign it. Control the money. Make sure that you as an owner.
That's such a good one. But no, both sides. Control them, because we try to control the money.
Correct. That's how you get your subs and suppliers to work with you.
Yeah, because
right?
we need money so we can get subs to hold their prices and we can release things. And we need money. We're not going to leave with your money, I promise you. We just need money to protect, honestly, the client. And we're trying to, if that subcontractor gave us a price for 30 grand, the only way that we're going to hold them to 30 grand is by initiating a contract and giving them their money so they can release whatever equipment that they have that's long lead. Because we're in a market now that before you can order a generator, the generator was in stock, that generator is not in stock now. So that's a really good point. Sorry to interrupt you. Hopefully you remember where you were.
Yes. Control the money.
Control the money.
As an owner, always try to have some amount of money on your side of the table so that if the contractor were to pick up and leave, that you have enough to finish the job. So, in commercial construction, it's pretty standard, 10% retainage, the hold back by the owner. You don't see that a lot in residential. But as an owner, you want to make sure that you've got enough money on your side of the table so that you can finish the job.
That's very important. So you're saying if they've done 70% of the work, that you've paid them 70% of the contract.
Yeah, not 90%. Because that's what we normally see. When they call us with a complaint or an issue, it's they've done 30% of the work and I've paid 80% of the contract.
This might
price.
sound very simple to me and you, but it's not very simple to other people, because if not, the people wouldn't get hustled.
Yes.
So it's okay to give them a deposit, which is a small deposit. Maybe they can do a joint check. A joint check is where you, as the owner and the contractor,
Are parties on the check. So when you write the check, you write it to XYZ contractor and the word and ABC supplier. So both parties are on the check, which means that when they turn it over and they have to sign the back of the check,
both people have to sign.
both people have to sign it.
That's important, because I think that if they can, because if the contractor is saying, hey, we need to order windows, we need to order the generator, we need to order all these things that are very long lead, well, then let's pay the people.
Yes.
Just don't pay don't pay the contractor directly if you don't trust him, because
Correct.
you might be getting hustled.
Yes.
That's a great tool that some people might not know
What
that, Alex.
we typically see is that the clients that are getting the short end of the stick they feel the pressure from the contractor, and the contractor's telling them, hey, look, if you want me to finish the job, you want me to speed up, I need more money. So they feel that giving the contractor money is the answer to getting the contractor to do the work. And what it's actually doing is the opposite.
Crazy.
You're giving the contractor more money.
It's like going to work, and then on Monday they say, "Hey, I want you to work so hard this week. I'm going to pay you already." Who's going to work the rest of the week? Just don't do that.
Yes.
Just don't. Even
Yes.
if you are a client, you can give us a deposit. Just pay us when
the work is done.
You can walk it and say, "Hey, we're billing for half of the electrical," and then we can make an assessment and we can make a determination if we are halfway through the electrical. Just don't do it. Don't feel the pressure that these contractors say, "Hey, I'm really busy. I'm trying to like." That's all. It's all BS. They're lying to you.
It's all BS.
Yeah.
The last thing is getting releases.
What's a release?
A release is a document signed by the party that you're giving the check to, as well as all of their subcontractors and vendors. You got to get one from everybody.
How would you know who to get from?
So you get a notice to owner. So if you're an owner, you're going to get all these things in the mail called a notice to owner.
But you only get that if you're working with a permit.
Yes. If you're working with
So a lot of
legitimate-
people, what happens, they get screwed because they're not working with a permit. So they are their worst enemy sometimes.
Oh yeah, this is Miami, so there's a lot of people. I was on the phone with a client today who told me that he's dealing with an owner on a renovation, and the owner's saying, "Come on, we got to get going. Start the work without a permit." So if you want work without a permit, if you want the lowest price, you're gonna get what you are asking for, which could be a contractor that doesn't have a license, doesn't have insurance, is going to disappear with your money. You need to deal with reputable people that have a business that's been in business for a while.
Again, Alex, a lot of these people don't have the money to pay that person.
Well, then I go back. Then I agree with what you're saying. Then they shouldn't be doing the work.
Yeah, they just don't do it. It's not.
Correct.
I'm telling you, it's not worth it because, the Cubans say lo barato siempre sale caro, and which means the cheap is always expensive. And I get it. Prices are expensive, construction is expensive. Just don't do it. Work with people who are licensed. Work with people who are reputable. You can give them a deposit. Maybe you give them a joint check. If you really, really trust them, you can give them a deposit. But if you give them a deposit, request the releases of lien from them.
Construction is not rocket science.
I know. That's why I do it. Right? Trust me. I know. I'm an idiot.
So construction is not rocket science. If you were to get a bid from 2, 3, 4 contractors to do whatever it is you need.
Because you know what this is crazy? Hold on. People think, I think this is funny. People think that their due diligence is by getting 3 quotes. Oh no, I'm getting 3 quotes. Oh no, I'm getting 4 quotes. Guys, that's not your due diligence. That's what you're supposed to do. That's like eating your vegetables and and hydrating. You're not doing anything different. I don't want you to have like that, that false philosophy of, I got the 3 bids and I really, no, that's you're just doing what you're supposed to do. There's so much more to that.
Yes.
To protect yourself. It's the 3 bids, but also like you're saying, which is.
But the thing is, okay, you have 3 bids, and one is $25,000, one is $24,000, and the other one is $11,000.
No, that's higher than 11 guy.
Exactly.
That guy's a good guy.
That's the problem. If you think the guy that gave you a quote for $11,000
is a straight shooter, like they said in The Hangover. I thought he was a straight shooter.
No.
You mean the drug dealer in the corner wasn't a straight shooter?
So that's the problem.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
you got to know that it doesn't take that much to realize that person is not the right guy.
I'm with you. I'm with you. But I also hear what the people are saying and what they feel.
Well, everyone likes a deal.
But some people like a deal. There's a lot of cheap people out there, but there's a lot of people, and I've seen them and I've spoken to them, but these are people that they're just the middle class people that have just worked hard. They've saved for a long time, and they just want the best for their kids, the best for their life, and they can't afford it. So as crazy as it sounds, just don't do it. Just don't do it because if you can't afford it, it's not worth doing it. And we're here to protect you. So I hope you guys had a lot of enlightenment in terms of the Barthet Firm, the Lien Zone, contractdetective.com, the Miami Construction Forum. There's so many things that Alex is doing. But if you get anything from this episode, is that Miami, number one, is not full of bad contractors. There are a few of us good out there. The other thing is that you need to be protected. So, looking the other way is not an excuse, for getting hustled. Go through this episode and really look at the notes that we talk about. Get a contract, review the contract, have maybe an attorney sign the contract or review the contract before you sign it. Maybe have something, your own contract. And if you can't afford the $1,500, which is, we understand, you can send it to contractdetective.com and it can kind of give you a few points out there. Don't always go with the lowest bidder. And just, don't always think that cutting corners is going to lead to success. You will get caught. There's a lot of people, the Miami and a lot of building officials are really trying to change the stigma that the city has for unpermitted work. So we hope that we can work with you. We hope we can help you. And we hope that this episode was a blessing in your life. And we hope that, that you continue to watch. And we're happy to have you on this journey with us. So stay tuned.